Welcome to the 8th episode of Real Talk with Claudia. And once again, we dive deep into the conversations that matter. And today I'm very excited because we are talking about love, marriage, values in this ever-changing world. And you guys asked for a guest and we delivered. The guest is here today, Mr. Skeel. And Mr. Skeel, I'm so excited to have you here. Just to give our viewers a bit of a background story, I met you, I think I just completed high school for a Swazi Bank promotion. I'm not even sure you recall this.
I remember.
You do?
But we're still functioning under the Swazi frequencies, not the Eswatini.
Yes.
Because I sang Swazi Bank Cup.
Yes.
Yes.
That's correct.
And for some reason, I guess, because females are alluring to the eye, that hired you guys models. Big one, was it the parading of the trophy? I can't remember.
Yes.
Something to do with the Swazi Bank Cup. And I remember you guys kicking the ball there at the plaza and whatnot. Yeah, but I do remember.
Yeah, I'm glad you remember. I thought you had forgotten.
Yeah.
And because we had a group at the time, that's when I got your number. So then I asked our wonderful viewers on my Instagram story, oh guys, the love season is around. Whom would you love to see in the podcast? And then they're like, Mr. and Mrs. Skeel. And I'm like, oh yeah, I think I have his number. I check and I'm like, it's been so many years I have your number. And I said, I'm going to throw in a dice and ask them to show up. And I'm so humbled that you took the time to contribute today. You know, our viewers, the people who watch this podcast are people who care about living a meaningful life, who care about trying to get it right,
Okay.
who understand that their individual decisions, choices, and actions contribute to the wider collective. So today you are a bigger brother to all of us. I'm happy today to be having adult conversations with you.
The honor is mine.
Yeah.
It's nerve-wracking though.
I know.
It's nerve-wracking for different reasons. I think the first one is when you say, hi guys, today we're going to do a deep dive. I'm like, yo, I'm not even deep. How are we going to do a deep dive when I'm not deep? But
Says
we're going
a
to
poet,
see
ladies and gentlemen.
the level of shallowness or deepness. Nonetheless, it is also nerve-wracking just to speak in this day and age. More so because even our opinions are super scattered.
Yes.
You know, and I think we also struggle as human beings to try to be politically correct. It's a trap also. It's fine to be respectable, but once you are always trying to be politically correct, then you compromise your own self.
Absolutely.
Or rather your own values, you know. But
Absolutely.
Nonetheless, I'm looking forward.
Yeah.
Hope it's going to be a great conversation.
I can already tell it is going to be a great conversation. Mr. Skeel, you are known for being a man of strong faith, commitment to family, and inspiring example of a loving marriage, which is why our audience asked you to be here today, and also known to be a musician and a poet. So we are here to get to know you, to get your views on love and marriage in this modern day. And before we just go any further, maybe you would love to introduce yourself.
Wow. Where do I start? And the smart people in the room usually say at the beginning. So absolutely, I think you've narrowed down who I am. I am a husband to an adorable, beautiful, caring wife, which is weird when you said a man of faith, because her name is Faith after all. I am also a father to an amazing ball of energy, handful young man that God has graciously given us. I also happen to be in the creative space. So that is obviously through music, poetry. I'm pausing because I've been trying to train myself to reduce
Fillers.
airs and arms and all of that, but nonetheless we go on. So that is who I am. I think that forms the biggest part of my life. And and much more than that, the honor is in the fact that ungithanda more than. I know this. So I'm not speaking nje from a theoretical pedestal. I'm speaking from experience. Uyabo nangabe umati uNkulunkulu ulati luthambo lwakhe. And even nje just uyabona kukhona la wabona khona amandla akho ngumumfu. This is me.
Yes.
Look at me. Oh, I'm doing so great. And there are those times, in fact, in more cases than none, you realize so that forms the biggest part of my life. It's a journey, but I guess all relationships are, because that is how we grow. You're able to look back, so I think that's why it helps to just have that review, and by profession, I'm in the marketing space. I serve in the marketing department, of which I'm actually grateful for, because in as much as it's in the financial sector, it also allows me to express that creative aspect of mine.
Okay.
Otherwise I'd be very, very frustrated. So I think I'm very, very privileged. Even in my profession, 8 to 5 wemqashi uyangivumela now and again for me to actually express that artistic side of me. Okay. And I guess the other parts of who I am, so along the conversation, the next 4 hours of this podcast.
Oh yeah. All right. It is quite lovely to learn more about you, and you yourself sound like you are a ball of everything, which I hope we can get to delve into as we continue to converse.
I hope so.
I think the most exciting thing that you started off in this conversation is talking about how God has loved you, and the viewers here know that I'm on a path myself. I don't identify as very religious, but I'm on a path of searching. I'm not adverse to it. I have a religious background, so for me it is very always interesting to have right now religious conversations without really taking what I've been conditioned to believe. I'm just trying to start from a clean slate. So I think this is going to be an interesting conversation. But Jay, for me, to throw you in the deep end, where I wanted to start, when it comes to marriage, we live in a time where a lot of people do not believe. They've been disappointed so many times, so they no longer believe in that you can find a happy, successful marriage in the religious setup. Okay. What do you think about that? Do you think religion, God, the Bible still plays a vital role into having a happy and a successful marriage?
Absolutely. Open brackets, T's and C's apply.
Okay.
Close brackets. So I say this because let's take 3 steps back. So finding a partner in church or in religious circles, whatever term you want to use, doesn't guarantee you a happy marriage.
Okay.
I'm looking for the least silliest example, but the one that's in my mind right now is, so the same way as being in a garage doesn't make you a car.
Okay.
It's that type of analogy. It may sound a bit silly. So indzaba isekutheni, it's not in, I'm trying to articulate this as best as possible. Now, church comprises of different individuals, because you can't omit character when it comes to issues of marriage.
Okay.
Now, you have a lot of people who are in church but lack character. You understand?
Yeah.
So nege vele sithi esomveni wena utawukhanza day one.
Okay.
You may find day one low, uninvested in being molded.
Okay.
Because what it is what principles are you living by? Yabo. That is why utawukhanza I'll say this word unapologetically. Utawukhanza ukuthi kunemahedeni whose marriages are, lack of a better term, flourishing.
Yes.
More so because they have invested in godlike principles.
Okay.
Love, respect, patience, and best of all, sacrifice. You understand? Now, utawukhanze ukuthi unanhle ngefa noma gininza lo nengane.
Yeah.
Lo ukhona la somveni. But impilo yakhe ayilawulwa nguNkulunkulu. So when it comes to issues of love, it's very limited. Utithanza yena.
Okay.
Respect, they are unable to respect the other person. You understand? And I touched on a very, very, very key one, sacrifice. Unable to sacrifice. Because layer sacrifice is very, very key. For both genders, but more particularly for my gender. Because if you go to the book of Ephesians, I think in the 5th chapter, it speaks about that model. Husbands, for what's less, yesimelane, thanza ladla gadla in the way that Christ loves the church.
Okay.
The bar is high.
The bar is high.
But uyaphenduleka in ekutheni being in church doesn't guarantee ukuthi you are going to get a good partner.
Yeah.
Ngule lifestyle. How does the person? How do you guys relate? It's on your value system. Love, respect, patience, sacrifice. Unjani logo? Because that's what is going to heighten the chances, yes, significantly so, of a successful marriage. Comma or full stop. I'm not sure.
Oh,
go on.
Many questions in my head right now because you touched on so many things that make sense. But asangicala nje ekutheni on the love in itself. How does it look like in your understanding? Is it an emotion? Is it something that you don't necessarily feel all the time, but you have to work on? How is this godly love? Because you did talk about principles that are shaped by God that you can even find in people that are outside of church, but ukanzos they have these godly principles. So how does this love look like, Nje? How would you define love in that kind of a marriage setup?
Okay. Number one, noma whatever it is. Love is not an emotion.
Okay.
And even if it is, the pillars or the components of it are swama emotions. I say this because in as much as, yes, we are emotional creatures, or rather creatures with emotion. Emotions fluctuate.
Absolutely.
You understand?
Yes.
That is why, disclaimer, I might not answer your question, but I will try as best as I can.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Nzama, I'm trying to define it by first stating what it is not.
Okay.
Because as a culture or as a people, I don't know whether we've been trained or conditioned, but somehow we've either been trained or we've been conditioned to think of it as emotions and compatibility.
Yes.
Yes. Which, like I said,
have butterflies.
The problem is mule fluctuation, yeah. So you can't really rely on those things. You see. So love is in the intention, is in the doing. Ndakbexel. 2025. Oh yeah. So my wife and I sitawube sithi 7 years. Noma angithi, okay, because the 7 years is a bit further than the 6. So December, we just turned 6 years in marriage. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is, in that 6 years, I have had moments where I don't feel like loving, but I have chosen to love. Bringing in nama principles I have chosen to be sacrificial, or rather have actions or activities that are sacrificial, that are loving, that are respectful towards. I don't feel like it. Yabo. Now the problem is, yabo no master my feelings, because if we trace it back, if we trace it back, this whole love thing, it goes to God.
Okay.
God is love. Scripture says God is love and his worshippers must do so in spirit and in truth. So God is love. Now, how did he demonstrate this love? He demonstrated this love by sending his son to die for us. And he didn't do that. It wasn't I'm feeling, like, it wasn't a lovey-dovey thing. He demonstrated it. It is in the action. It's not just, we can't reduce it or limit it to emotions. It is in the doing. And loving is a choice also. Comma.
Okay.
Yeah.
Comma. Thank you for sharing. 6 years. Wow, that's beautiful. But I just want to now take us a little bit, a step back. Now, we're young people.
Yeah.
We meet other young people. When does the love begin?
When does the love begin?
Yeah, just before the marriage. It's not a feeling marriage. When does love begin? Does it begin when people start talking? When they're in, I'll just give just to give context.
Please.
I come across a lot of my peers that they have so much frustration about, I met this guy, but the life that I want. Or I'm not sure. There's just frustration. And same from the guys. It's like, so just to set the tone for relationships, what should they be looking for when now they approach relationships? Is it something that you just see somebody and you feel like I'm in love, or you get to meet somebody great and you grow into the love, or you meet somebody great and you choose that, okay, I'm going to decide to love you? How does it start so that it can progress to this commitment, your marriage?
When I pause, I'm not speechless. It's me trying to step on the right rock. Almost like you're walking in water.
Yeah.
You're trying to step on the right one, because
how did you know?
The issue is expectations. Okay. But maybe it's the expectations. So like I said, emotions and feelings and the lovey-dovey stuff, they are components. Yabo. So we can't rule them out.
Okay.
Yabo.
Yes.
Like tyranny, no emotions. No. That doesn't make sense. So that is fine. The problem is it being a pillar. But how did I know? I knew based on my intentions for this woman. There isn't a particular thing. I think you realize ngetendo takho kuthi maye inkosi yami lemvulena mina ngendelela omunye umuntu. Yabo. So yes, this is where the feelings are. I don't feel what I feel for anybody else.
Okay.
You see?
Yes.
Now, love needs structure. You see?
Yes.
Love needs structure whereby you need to come to a place where you speak to the butterflies.
Okay.
Butterflies, it was lovely to have you guys. Thank you. Please give us the room. because I need to be sure ukuthi kungiko lokho. Because you guys fluttering about, it's causing blurriness. It's based on my feelings. Butterflies, please, just noma ngicala nisimele lapha nitawubuya bo butterfly. So good a particular time, like as of the 12th of January at 2:03, I started loving you. You see, because angithi it's a relational thing. So now you realize look ukuthi how we are the here's me, imperfect human being, meeting another imperfect human being. I think about compatibility and whatnot. Are we able to tolerate each other? Are we able to navigate around our sharp edges? You see, I think in the secular world they call it red flags. You see,
yes.
So that calls for you to be aware. That's why I was saying we need to ask the butterflies, guys, because when they're fluttering about, you can't even see those red flags. Yabo. Noma kung red, in fact, you become colorblind. You see, so those red flags, how many are you coming across? Because it has to be intentional. You understand?
Okay.
All
right. So for me, this is a very scary thing. I'm just gonna share a little bit of a background story that I think it's going to be very vulnerable of me because it is a personal story and it involves like real life experiences and emotions which I care about deeply. I'm sharing my story. So I met a man once, and I think just from the get-go, he was like, Claudia, I want to start a family with you. I love you. And for me, that was red flags. Boom, boom.
Why? Was it based on when he said it?
It just felt so too soon.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's the when.
Yes.
How long into the relationship was this?
I think 2 at most.
2 weeks?
2 weeks at most.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, oh my God, no. And at the back of my head, I'm like, because I have the understanding that in society, it's as if the reward for women or like the ultimate goal is to get wedded, you know? So it's like, no, maybe it is, but I don't want you to come to me and think that, you know, I need us to connect on values, to have the conversation, the friendship, and then we define all that with the marriage. Okay. And then that was scary. And then later on, time progresses. I meet another man. He's like, Claudia, I've never met anyone like you.
When you say time progresses,
that doesn't work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
The time is not progressing with him
in the picture. No, not with him in the picture.
Right.
That doesn't work. I meet another person, another man. He's like, Claudia, we align in values. I've never met anyone like you. I don't think I'll ever meet anyone like you. You're amazing. And yeah, I've taken myself out of the single bracket. I'm in the relationship bracket now. Okay. And as we continue to have conversations, we end up into the marriage conversations as well. And then he's like, he's not considering getting married. If he would do that, it's something that he would do specifically for me, which feels like an insult to me. And the other thing he talks about is, well, one thing he vowed to himself is that he would not wed a woman unless they had stayed together for 2 years. Just to give you a little bit of a background as well, he's not religious. Okay. His parents divorced. So I think there's a little bit of trauma carried into the approach in marriages. I can see that. And then in my head, I'm like, he lives abroad. I'm like, I'm not going to leave everything, my ecosystem, my environment, my culture, everything that I've identified with, to be with a man who feels like he wants to test drive me for 2 years while he studies me. Oba, am I worth marrying? You say you like me, we're aligned in values and all of that. So, why am I bringing this up? In my head, I'm like, there's the idea I have of love that had we been in love, probably would have been stupid enough to be like, Claudia, whatever it is, I want you by my side. And if you value marriage, then we're going to do it. And from my end, had we been in love, he would have been like, I want you to come to Europe. And I would have taken the first plane out because of love. But then now you're talking about the conversation about kicking out the butterflies and having the serious conversations. And I feel like the moment you start having the serious conversations, you're becoming logic. And I think there's a difficulty to have love and logic to coexist. Well, what's your take? And
firstly,
yeah. Okay.
The reason why we need the butterflies to excuse us, like, please go play lapha eceleni. Them coexisting, until they represent the flattery emotional aspect of us. Emma, we are what emotions, logic, oots. You see, it's very hard to strike the balance, but we do need to have logic to sort of, because it brings in reality. I don't know why, but I think this is why they often prescribe premarital counseling for couples, because it brings in the reality. Brings in the reality. Siyathandana, sihlala emakhaya lahlukile, we meet whenever we meet. Now, premarital counseling ngicabanga ukuthi udlala le role yokuthi let's be real. Okay. How do you guys intend on when it comes to children?
Yes.
What do you guys think about children? Because ukhona lo lothi mina I want 5.
Yeah.
And I say it's just 1. But let's talk about it, because ukudasinika inkinga nase singalinge share. Finances. What are your thoughts? Babe encenye uva ngathi emakhadi kumele kusahlale kimi. Maka utawusho ukuthi udinga ini. You see? Maka uthi asibe na separate accounts. All of that, bring in the reality, because we are real people who will be living here.
Yeah.
All of those aspects. Religiously, where are you guys? You understand?
Do you think you have to have the same views about everything all the time? Because exactly what you're talking about, I do agree with the fact that these are the things that you have to have conversations about before marriage. But again, I think they're the very reason why we end up not getting married. And I think marriage is still important for society. So what's your approach in that? Do you need to agree on everything? Or there's always someone who's a little bit, has to compromise a bit? Because it's one of the things I realized. In Eswatini, most of the men that I think I've met and had conversations with, they strongly believe they would need me to be religious and go to church. And I'm like, why am I the one who always needs to bend and change?
I think it'll help for me to understand where you are.
Okay.
Particularly because spirituality plays a very, very big role. We do need to at least come to an understanding. If we don't, it's going to create something else when now we have a product, aka a baby, /babies. How now do we raise them? So it brings in the reality. But to answer your question, we don't have to agree on everything. However, human beings individually need to have non-negotiables.
Okay.
You need that. You see, very key. We will not agree on everything. And that's fine.
Yeah.
That's okay. I think it would be weird if we did agree on everything. Because if we agree on everything, then I think someone is lying to someone.
Yeah.
All
right.
We're trying to avoid conflict if we're agreeing on everything. But nonetheless, what I'm trying to say is, our differing opinions are not particularly deal breakers unless now it's touching on my non-negotiables. You see, I am approaching this relationship blank slate, but now nje man non-negotiables. Yabo, wo angimfuni umfati lothanza umgroove. Yabo, uthi libale lakhe uyelo noma the darker side, moods and fisher. Maybe I can have a preference, but it's not a non-negotiable. Like if height is a non-negotiable, it's a bit weird.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay.
But when it comes to the core things that make us who we are, spirituality, and then our values. Ngilapho la ngena khona la non-negotiables.
Okay.
So we need to come to a place where siyawathinta. So that just awusheshe siyekele lemvu. Tasihlupha lembili. Sezimembi babamfe holeni. 500 people. Bayadla ke stampo noma beetroot konke. Siyavuma vele. Vele sijikjela indandatho because we were avoiding these things. You see, that is why vele it's an issue of character, it's an issue of maturity. We are thinking you are even better off. You are even better off getting married when you're 57. But you are sound. You know what you want. And your marriage will last. And getting married at 25 and divorcing 2.5 years later, or 6 months, or 3 months, or 3 weeks, or 3 days. Oh my. But you.
Or 3 hours.
Yeah.
What do you think are some of the challenges that young people are facing when it comes to relationships, marriage?
Individuality is one of them.
Good one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Individuality. Ngim. Angitshelwa mina. And I think we also just generally have a warped sense of who's who. We're also not. We are tickled by ideologies. And then we avoid truth. You see? So, my ideology, it's a patriarchal society. We will not be enslaved by these women. I mean, by these men. So on and so forth. Yet we just need to, I think what we are redefining things, because leadership, I as the head of my household, it's not representing tyranny. Submission is also not representing weakness. You understand? Because gwananami, I ought to submit. Christ is the head of the household. So gwananami, I submit. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes.
Exactly. So now what happens is we are redefining. Sithatha imvo lengasina yephu. Umshado wakhe waNkulunkulu. So sithatha thina imvo lengasina yephu, siyaklikha lapha settings. So we're just redefining things, yet we've really become selfish creatures. Myself involved. Dakutshela imvo longangibuti yona. One of the things that I actually discovered emshadweni was, oh my word, I am a selfish individual. What? I did not know this. You see, but I needed to be with someone. Yathi futhi akusine ukuthi udzinga kuba nemuntu lotakutshela. So selfish wena. Kutshela ebusweni ngusabi. You realize based on your decisions, you know, because I touched on a keyword, sacrifice. You realize I'm not willing to sacrifice this because marriage, you can't be selfish with your time. You can't be selfish with your ngingona le generation lena yabona igama la energy selihlukile. Yo,
you can't be selfish with your energy.
angilifuni ngoba nini anifuni acknowledge nini energies, vibes, the universe speaks. Yabo, I just felt the energy manje ngisengilibalekela because kwalona leligama la energy has been redefined. You understand?
Yeah.
But I think you get the essence of what I'm saying. You can't be selfish with these things. So now it creates friction. It creates friction. It's okay for human beings to be individuals. Because in as much as two have become one under the authority and the headship of Christ, the Son of God, but we're still individuals. We still do have personal preferences. Yabo. But at some point in time, kukhona ma levels where maybe you need to compromise, levels where you need to sacrifice, levels where you need to even just upgrade your level of thought. Yabo. Learn and unlearn. Yeah, but lo unlearn agasi comfortable. Lo unlearn. So those are some of the issues. Yabo. Aside from the obvious ones where we've become, you know, we've become those people. Gansi, when it comes to love and marriage, presence is very key. It's not about proximity. Yabo. Because ukhona lo doubt say, hey, lo imvotsa yakhe ihlala ingekho nje. Hlala isegroove. Yabo.
Yeah.
Yet wakho ukhona ulandlini
But akasikho present.
but akekho. You see?
Can you tell us a little bit more about presence? Because again, it ties back to, I think we were at this awkward moment as Africans, especially. Gokuthi typically in votes available ukuthi nje ihlalela nalamanye amadvotes kunetimvote emadvotes abafati abahlale nalabanye abafati, and yalo all these things were bringing in labo love languages and the love languages and energies nabo bonke lesikushoko. Sengathi lamanye amadvotes they are simps if they do this. They are simps if they are less of a man, they are less masculine if they do this. So when it comes to the presence, just being present as a man in a relationship, how would you say it looks like? I'll make an example. Jordan Peterson, a Canadian psychologist that I love so much, he always talks about how men should dedicate time to speak to their wives for 90 minutes a week.
Okay. Yeah.
Why do you laugh?
No, I'm laughing at the prescribed time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so specific. Yeah, like we'll be in the conversation and then it's 89 and once it's 90, good talk, I'm out. Yabo, wafika 91 nje sengunika too much. You know, but yeah.
Yeah, but like how would you say presence looks like?
Presence communicates. Presence communicates. Full stop.
Yeah.
It communicates different things. Umumfu i-attention uyayifuna. Dare I say futhi uyayideserve. You're not obligated to it from everybody. Can I take it a level down from marriage?
Yep.
Let's look at children. You need to be kind to your child. Yeah, but you are raising someone who's supposed to function in society.
Yes.
And express that kindness to other. You need to be firm with them, right? Yes. So that they understand boundaries, they understand rules. And then you also need to be present. You see, there's something that it teaches them. Absence of presence, you are robbing someone. Something which I'm unable to. Kung ex right now, kukhona lembo lo irobago from the other person. Your nakuloko singisi kubaleka your non-presentness sale sarcastic is this for the sake of progress. Your non-presentness, there's something that you are robbing the other people of, because it is a who's this guy, Maslow? Yeah, I know the Bible doesn't have the hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
Do you remember some of
Belonging.
those things? I think that belonging.
Yeah. Self-actualization. Like food, shelter, clothing.
Exactly.
Yep.
Unema needs. You need this. It's so weird, and I feel so bad. Look, I'm unable to articulate this. Kufana ne just general absence from people. That is why some people yabahlanyisa nje the isolation. Isolation is not good for mankind. I'm not coded enough to explain it the way in which I would love to explain it. We need people. It sounds so basic. So your presence, like I said, my opening statement was presence communicates. Nikhona. Sithando sam. Because angithi presence ubese sowutake na lama action items. The conversating where now we are learning about each other. Because every single day, every single day you are learning. What to communicate, how to communicate. This is how the person feels. How do I feel about what they are feeling? How do I feel about them reacting like this if I tell them how I'm feeling?
Do you have a conversation about all of that?
Do you?
Do you have a conversation about all of that?
Yes and no.
I made you feel like that. Okay.
Yes and no. Yes when necessary.
Okay.
No, because as human beings, we are siyafunza. We learn through each other's actions. So some other things are not learned by virtue of I have communicated it.
Okay.
But my action says, you understand?
So I must be able to read in between the lines.
It's not back nalapo, yes and no. A lot no-ish, because reading between the lines. Yes, kunaloku funza kabi, but also it brings in the issue of expectation. Uyabo, kanti encenye asikho at the same level. Mina ngicabanga ukuthi ubonile lokho ukuthi unyathele. Uyenza wena uyanyathela, yabo, and awukeva nalokho ukuthi wathi sekuqinaqinile lana bewuqhubeka. But mina ngalokho ukuthi I'm expecting you to acknowledge and apologize for this, yet you're not there. You see?
Yep.
It leans more onto the no. The read between the lines, yeah, I've learned the hard way, because I think I'm also one of those people. I expect
to be told.
No. I expect things to be seen. Oh, boni. Yabo.
Yeah.
Gansi encenye phela lo munye umuntu cha vele akabona. Or at least akabona ngale ndlela. So it's always better to communicate it.
Yeah. I absolutely agree with that. I feel like I found communication to be one of the biggest values when it comes to relationships, so much that I think one of the things I realized for myself is that there's no way I could be in a relationship with someone that we cannot have a back-to-back conversation for 4 hours. And I feel like, wow, Skatinja feels like...
Wait, when you say back-to-back, are we talking conflict?
Can be a debate, can be conceptualizing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like I just need us to be able to...
4 hours nah, it's not gonna happen.
That's interesting when you said what do you think? Yeah, but leading to my question, I'm curious. What from a man's perspective, what do you wish women understood about men? especially when it comes to the whole love and relationship approach? Something that you think they probably misunderstand.
Something that I think they misunderstand.
Yeah, as women.
Apart from the fact that we're different individuals, quite frankly, and it's a difficult thing because ngiva ngathi ungibeka in a position where sekungazuthi spokesman of men.
I'll say a spokesman.
Like, no man, I got this.
Yep.
Let me tell them what we think.
Yeah.
Women, listen to it.
Yeah.
I can't be a spokesman, but we think differently.
Yeah.
We function differently. And ikhona vele le aspect. Yes, we are emotional creatures. So okay, you know. But ngazuthi bathi nina ngathi kuningana ngalanga kini. Ngoba you guys come equipped with a software called estrogen.
Yeah.
And then I think our software is testosterone. I'm not sure about the relation between testosterone and logic, but we tend to be
more
logical in certain things.
Do you think it causes a clash in relationships because we tend to be more emotional?
Yes.
And because what advice would you have for men to deal with that estrogen?
Listen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
No. I'm answering the question. I'm not saying you listen.
No, I'm thinking that men should listen more. I was saying yes to that.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Listen.
Okay.
Yeah. Pay attention. More so because sometimes in default, singashinji nalama settings kusinyalo sesifake on kulama emotions. Just in default. As big as it's a woman, no matter it's a person, as it's a woman. A woman will communicate one thing when they mean another. I know men do it. I'm not ruling that out.
Men do it
I
intentionally.
might have even done it also.
Mm-hmm.
A basic /simple example would be, oh, what's wrong? I'm fine. Ubani lesikhathi.
Okay.
Ngathi kume alarm lapha.
I-alarm yakho le.
Wathi ngisakhumbula lethi yani. Uyayibona le mvo yokukuthini? Ngenkosi yami. Le mvo yokuthi utawusetha i-alarm kumbe noma beku-alarm yokuthi umntwana athathe umuthi.
Ivakala kanjani?
Bese so awusaqishi wakhohlwa lokuthi lapha bekuthi Tuesday.
Yep.
Every Tuesday sekuyawukhala yabo. Ngiyasola man. Noma it's a certain alarm for doing something I can't recall. Train of thought returned to me. Yes, so you will communicate one thing when you mean
another.
Yeah, so the reason I'm saying listen is really pay attention. Understand your human being. Because human beings are complicated in J. Human beings are complicated in J. We would probably be less complicated if we were all just born together and raised under the same household. You see, so now you've got these two individuals who were raised differently, who communicate differently, who value different things, and they may not be able to communicate that ngendlela lo tayo understand. So I think we don't listen to each other enough. Kansi, a whole lot of mess would have been avoided. Nale communication, the way in which we communicate. Because mina ngitawucabanga ukuthi ngaloko ukuthi ngikhulumile. I have communicated. Yabo. Kanti phela i-communication kumele ukuthi ifike ngingibani mina nging-A kumele ukuthi ifike ku-B. B ngusithandwa sami. A mine iyafika ku-B sithandwa sami. Sekwendekalani lapha, so she then takes that angithi uyak-interpreta ngendlela tsite. So uyabuya kimi. Because if I just communicate, fanele ukuthi nje I can right now you ask a question and I answer you in Greek. How's your Greek, friend? How are you doing? How's your Greek? You speak English, Siswati? Sinjani Greek sakho? 1%, 2%? Written?
0%.
Spoken? So then I answer you in Greek. I've communicated.
Yeah.
I think. But what use is it nangabe wena awungiva? Yabo? So indlela lesi communicate ngayo ngiyo le cause ama friction. Yabo? So that is why character plays a very, very big role. Yabo? Because we grow but don't grow. Ikhona lemve kokuthi ukhule in stature but ungakhuli in wisdom. Yabo? So mine mangitawu buka le bese senginaka liqingo noma sengigeza teacher ngiyacommunicate. Yabo? As mark. Sengiwasha teacher. Kumbe mina ngalokuthi sesihleli kanye sengiva sethi indlela washa teacher masimelane no akaphatheki kahle. You see? Kanti nanginganake hawu geza teacher nje umfati. But ngiva hayi inde plate lisha ngayo lesinki. You see?
Can I ask something with regards to that? We have indlela la washa ngayo teacher, you don't pay attention. We are born indlela la beka ngayo plate makaphakele, you don't pay attention. We have one word that she says that didn't sit well, you don't pay attention. What's the cost of that? Of not paying attention over and over and over again?
Wait, why am I not paying attention? Am I intentionally not paying attention? Am I ignorant?
You're like,
or is it my pride?
Right, women are emotional. That's right. Don't lose.
That's dangerous. Yeah. That's very dangerous actually. That ngingobe ngibuta lokho ukuthi mawuthi I'm not paying attention, is it based on the fact that angiboni bamba, I'm not paying attention? Noma I am paying attention but I'm not paying it any mind. I'm not reacting to what she's doing. Which one are you referring to?
You're not responding.
But I'm not.
You're not being responsive.
Okay, I think time and space, I guess. Ngoba vele tikhona timvo loku ngazothi kulunga lokho ukuthi vele sikhulume kumbe base pholile.
Okay.
Ngalokho sesiyadana. Yes, ngalokho ukuthi sesiyadana. The wisdom says pick your time, really. Yeah, pick your time. Nangabe you are not paying attention, don't do that indefinitely. And really just hope it fizzles away. Because unfortunately, it won't. Because good the outlet, it doesn't have anywhere to go. Yabo. Khona la kutawu yakhona kuruse. You see? And it will be very unfortunate when now the partner refers to that. Because uhleli la ngqomveni. Yabo. Because the day kutawu shuba is where she will recall that. Yabo. Because you are a person, it seems, here's the thing. One of the reasons, let me not paint with a broad brush. One of the reasons why you're doing that is because you are acting like you don't care. Or at least wanted to seem as though you don't care. Yabo. I think there's something that it does to a person's ego. Yabo. Yet you do. Hence the effort in the acting. Like, why would you just take a role and play it? Yabo.
Yeah.
There's intention. So there are dangers. There are dangers. And I think the reverse of that, masengikubuka usually. Because you guys are a lot more vocal. When I say you guys, I mean females.
Yeah.
Females are a lot more vocal in most cases. Ngikubona lokhu kungazuthi ku-affecta sijimbo lokhu. Asikhulumi thina kakhulu.
I had a question about that.
Gender.
I had a question ukuthi because mine ngiwasha teacher a certain way le jengisawo uthi angikho right. Is there a male version of that?
Of course.
What is it?
Withdrawing.
Okay.
Yeah. Just withdraw.
And ideally, as Mama Sekaya, what would you expect? Or what's the expectation around that? How do I deal with that?
I might not have an expectation. Okay, maybe there is an expectation. But I want to I'm so into my withdrawal. Because I'm not even thinking what you should be doing.
Okay.
Maybe sengiletha leli follow lengala le information lengala ukuthi maybe ikhona le expectation yokuthi wena ubuye initiate the fixing, more particularly langabe ngikholelwa ukuthi isuswe nguwe or I am less wrong than you are. You understand?
Yes.
So there is that. Yeah. There is that. It's the withdrawing. But quite frankly, that is why it is very, very important as individuals, particularly as males, for us to submit. Krestu Nkulunkulu. Hayi ema-energies. Ama-energies akanawusifikisa nzawo. So the reason I'm saying this is because we have been prescribed no particular milligrams, but we've been prescribed. This is how you should conduct yourself, because these things mold our character. Kuze kukuthi ube ngumuntu lo mature. Yabo. If you're a person who's mature, you're a person whose self-awareness is at a level where you are able to you're able to approach life ngendlela letside. Yabo. Utakubikela nje. It will be uncomfortable. It may be uncomfortable. I think any conflict is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But self-awareness, we have found that, like I told you earlier, I realized, I am a selfish individual. Angathi noma ngiloku ukuthi kumbe ngingeva kumake.
Yabo. Yebo.
Ngiyabekisa. Mabeki ngaka underline, wena ngathi highlight lapha. Wa highlight.
Okay.
Yes. Le self-awareness. If you're ignorant of it, you literally live your life not even knowing that you're selfish. But it affect
yes.
Because we do need to be selfless. If you're living amongst people, even outside of the home, can't be having selfish colleagues.
Yeah.
Yabo?
Yes. Yep. Okay. Also, what I am picking up from this is that, well, coming from a godly man and religious man, I understand to increase the chances of a successful, happy marriage, to have the ideal that you look up to, and in this case is God. You submit to God.
Absolutely.
And one of the most beautiful conversations I've ever had with somebody, they said the two people in the relationship need to be able to put the relationship above themselves. As what does the relationship need to thrive? Not what do I need, do you need? The relationship needs to be above you as individual selves. So with that being said, I just want to speak for the people that aren't necessarily religious or are like myself, are on a path. What I'm getting is that it's important to have guiding principles. So for an example, for myself, the guiding principles that I try to practice is stoicism. And
what?
Stoicism.
Oh, you said that too fast.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Yes. And actually, when I left church, I had a conversation with my mother. She was very concerned. I would say, you're leaving church. And I said, no, Mom, I'm not leaving church so that I could live recklessly. I'm just trying this path. And now in my principles, Lamani. And I think it worked more because I felt like it's not an expectation. It's something I'm just voluntarily exploring. And it has its own principles, like, virtue, pursuing virtue, integrity, respect, being one with life, and all of that. So I think in the gist of what I'm trying to say is that as much as I don't necessarily submit to God to have guiding principles. Kumqoka, ekugcineni kwako konke.
It provides structure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It provides structure, absolutely. Because structure is guiding. Structure has direction. Structure is also a form of protection. Because if this thing is worth building, it's worth protecting.
Yep.
Because we are building this relationship together.
Yeah.
That is why we come together, and the Bible says man is deceitful. Man's heart is deceitful by nature. But because we are made in God's image, we are able to pour out the best of our qualities into this thing. It's not an easy thing, because it's a lemfo, you pour out all of you into this. The good and the bad.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
We need to find a way, how do we filter out, look, not avoiding. How do we filter out that? Because we are growing. But growth has a purpose. And purpose in a direction in which it points at. You see? So that is why I think I've only read a bit. Your time management. How do you pronounce this? I think I've been pronouncing it wrong.
Stoicism.
It's stoic. The C is when you add the sism, it's I'm learning.
I just say stoicism.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce it. But that book that I showed you. So I'm familiarized.
Yeah.
I'm a few years away from 40, and this word is still it's showing me flames. So I'm still yet to say it slowly, Samilane. Familiarize myself.
Yeah.
Yes, I do understand its direction, and
Yeah.
I think it's good foundational level at a point where how do you perceive yourself, how do you perceive the world, how do you react to that. So I think life figure I short the corner lang khona mina is what is it for? You understand?
Yes.
That's why I brought in the word wa purpose. So the success of my marriage should glorify God. Like God is to be glorified through this healthy marriage. Yabo? Awunanathi bakasimelane siyasitakala empela. Yabo? But who is it pointing towards? You see? So that is why kumcoka lokho ukuthi I don't know, it's weird, but ikhona approach ya, what do they say? They say chew the meat and spit out the bones. You never heard that thing?
No.
Yeah. Chew the meat and spit out the bones. I haven't come across the bones go stoicism yet.
What would the bones look like?
I think the bones would be anything that clashes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
So the problem is, if stoicism utawube sewungazuthi u-elevator mine. Yabo? Because that's one of the issues that I have with self-help, self-improvement. You see?
Yep.
My problem with that is the very same problem that I have with certain types of the gospel. Gospel it's self-help. It's you. Yabo? It's like, is it steering away or is it backing away? Whichever, from God. Yabo? So bones would be anything like clasher. Nalo ukuthi ha? yini ngathi lapha sengimlongolonkulu
Mm.
yini ngathi lapha
Yabona.
senginake mina yini ngathi lapha siprofeto in the last days people will be lovers of themselves ngathi ngiyadibona la yabo how much time do I give or devote to the glorification of God? Aspects of my life, do they glorify God? Ngoba sekungathi ngim. That's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
We can never reach a state which is prescribed by certain philosophies. You want to say something?
Bese kuba kuningi skill, but nje asangichubeke kancane ngithi, what advice would you give to young men at that stage to approaching courtship and marriage? Earlier on, you stated something that was a red flag to me and having these conversations. So just to paddle really, really safely, what advice would you have for them to have like happy, meaningful relationships?
Seek wisdom.
Seek wisdom.
Wisdom is the principal thing. The word of God says, the word of God says, by wisdom a house is built.
Okay.
Then you need to think, what tears it down? Seek wisdom.
Okay.
Yeah. What was it? That 3 chord, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. Because wisdom on its own is not. Yes, you need to understand it.
And
you need
another
to apply
thing,
it.
Another important question that I have for you: do you think it is important for people nowadays, modern day age, to tie what they have with marriage, or as long as they have the right principles and the values, bangaphila nje together? Do you think it's important to sign the papers, say I do in front of God and all of that?
Is your question asking about cohabitating?
Yes.
Kuhlalisana. What is the word?
Kipita.
kukhona lele ngikufunako la, but ngicela kucala from let me jump on your bandwagon, because ngiyakubona wena ukuthi udangala ngalama vibes philosophy and dude, philosophy thinking, and I think one of the angathi kumbe ndawathola lama sources kumbe sotawafaka kule description yale video lapha.
Yebo.
Yes. Okay, ngicela kuqala nganako. Marriage needs accountability.
Yes.
Ndawuphinza. Underline, bold, increase the font. Marriage needs accountability. Cohabitating, uyayilekha le accountability, because yena ukunika le emergency door exit.
Yes.
You see?
Yes.
Now, cohabitating thrives on convenience. Yet marriage is not about that. Yabo.
Yes.
But bengifuna kungena kulama fields akho. They've even done studies on this. Loko kuthi le ndawuthini, the cohabitating without commitment akujeli kahle. In fact, kubese kuba nebungoti kulo mshado. Every single marriage has the possibility of divorce. I believe that the marriage that is guided by the principles which we've spoken of significantly decrease that chance of divorce.
Okay.
So now lokuhlala kwethu kwe-convenience and no real accountability kuyawanyusa
Yes.
lama chance ekuthi sibe sesesi. Yes.
Yes.
Nayo impemvulo yami kukhona amanile bengikufuna manje lana.
Skeel wanted to approach me on philosophy, and here's the interesting thing. Have you found it? Okay, please do.
Marriage is honorable among all, and the bed undefiled, but fornicators and adulterers God will judge. Is honorable. Uyayibona ukuthi le honor ikuphi? Because uyamhlonipha nalomuntu. Like I said, we redefine things. Yabo. We redefine things because we are also just generally guided by ideologies as opposed to truth. You see?
Yes.
But mean the issue yam ngule issue of the less commitment. That is why you are better, like I said, you are better off doing this thing when you're 57.
So you understand.
You understand. Don't stop trying this thing like subscription service, trial expire soon, and if ungaphenduleki nyalo, I hope utaphenduleka at some point in time.
Yeah, I wanted to say this is the interesting thing. I'm philosophical, yes, but it's the interesting thing is that I believe in marriage, and the only reason that I struggle with the concepts of religion, it's because I'm still trying to figure out the concept of God in essence. That's the main path that I'm on.
Okay.
But the values of marriage, I respect very much. And even religion in itself, I struggle with it, but I know for a fact that I want to raise I would love, if I luckily happen to have children, I would love to raise them the religious way because I appreciate the values, the community values, the structure it provides.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I have two questions, but maybe let me start with the second one. Based on your pattern, you said you were raised up.
Yes. Yes.
Then you dropped out.
Yes.
Can we use that word?
Yes.
You're saying now you'd love to raise your children. Ufuna bathathe the values.
Yes.
But bathathe until when?
Up to them. Once they turn 18, it's up
ditch
to the
thing.
Not ditch, but it's up to them to find what works. I don't want them to adopt it because it's the only thing that have been told. I want them to be open-minded, so much that if ever I find myself in the religious path again, it is something that I can wear with a badge of honor because I know that I would have been on a journey, pursued God, pursued finding the religious wisdoms, and I would own them, not because it's what my mother believed in, not because I was just attending church religiously because it was what was expected of me. Just like I think there was pride in finding stoicism because it's something I invested in the time and cultivated. So it's just that. And I think the other thing with faith that I struggle with, that I happen to struggle with even when it comes to love, it's because they're not very objective things. Like, for an example, God. I can't point and touch just like I would point and touch you, right? So it feels very subjective, things that require, it's not empirical, it's not tangible. So
That's
I
a lot
struggle.
Of English. It's empirical. Yo, okay.
Yeah, well, even science.
You're saying you lack faith or belief because you can't touch it. It's
Let me give an example.
Substance.
Let me give an example.
Please.
People in different walks of life and religions will appear in court and say, or even establish cults and say they've been sent by God. Right? So out of religion, we've gotten great things. But then again, there's people who say, but mumfangene in a plane is to praise God, you know. But it's causing real harm in real life, tangible harm that is, right? Because it's from God. So now that's the difficulty. Who is to prove ukuthi lo muntu lona vele akathunywa uNkulunkulu? Ibe kukhona lestoba approver athuthunye uNkulunkulu because they started an NGO or they are doing really great things or they are a virtuous person because nakhona kushito uNkulunkulu. Yabona?
I understand. You know, we were warned about the people that you are talking about. There's so much text that warns us about the people that you are talking about. Maybe for instance, in the book of Jude, I'm just looking for 3. Okay, beloved, while I was very diligent to write to you concerning our common salvation, I found it necessary to write to you, exhorting you to contend earnestly for the faith, which once for all delivered to the saints. For certain men have crept in unnoticed, who long ago were marked out for this condemnation, ungodly men, who turn the grace of our God into lewdness and deny the only Lord God and our Lord Jesus Christ. But I also want to, here is where we fail ourselves. Njengebamfu, but particularly njengebazalwane. In the book of Acts, I'm looking for Acts 17:11. It should be Acts 17:11. But in Jengdaufuna Gugu summarizela, okay, he goes before he speaks to the philosophers in Athens. This is who we should be. This is the thing that will reduce. This is the thing that will reduce doubts. This is the thing that will reduce Emma backsliders. It's very, very sad. In a day and an age whereby umbhalo, in fact, umbhalo has never been this available. We have versions we don't even need. Like, why do we have this version? It's not necessary. We have versions we don't even need. We have Bibles in phones and tablets and all of that. But we're the most biblically illiterate generation there ever was. Biblically illiterate. So now, one of the issues I'm trying to bring us here. Let me start from 10, just for context. Then the brethren immediately sent Paul and Silas away by night to Berea. When they arrived, they went into the synagogue of the Jews. These were more fair-minded than those in Thessalonica. That should be Thessalonica. Take time, just read Acts 17. This is Paul going through and preaching. Now, these were more fair-minded than those in Thessalonica, in that they received the word with all readiness. Now, this is what I'm coming to. And search the scriptures daily to find out whether these things were so. That's very, very key. Why not like these guys? Why not? Couple this with what I said. We are biblically illiterate. So, wait. What kind of gospel was presented to you? Because utawukhanza ukuthi wena upfole lenye igospel. Igospel lethi kutawendeka naku. We had umshado. I see it in the spirit. You lady in the black. Oh, thus saith the Lord, marriage in 3 months. I see a car coming your way. Exactly. But I feel playing the right type of music.
Yeah.
You are receiving that as the gospel, as though these are promises to you. Now, what happens is 3 months passes. It's like, and then 4 months.
Yeah. Not necessarily. Not even. Thank you so much for the verses as well. So I think the main reason that I leaned on to this type of philosophy, which is Stoicism, it's because I felt like it gave me real-time, tangible things to act on. Understand? And now the Bible does provide that as well. Real-time, tangible things. Like, njengokuthi indvodza iyoshiya in ekhaya ihlale nomkayo mhloniphe konke lokho. It's very tangible things, like you totally understand what you need to do. But lo lebe bese kufika kuba ne challenge khona when it comes to God and understanding those things. It's because ngiyalo akusasiko very tangible njengoba ngisho, it requires faith, which is something that I struggled with. So which is why when I started off my self-development journey as well, there was the whole manifestation and everything, which is quite metaphysical, and I struggle with it.
Okay.
I love psychology, because psychology is straight like sit for 15 minutes, have positive thoughts. It feels very much within my control. And then now to say, put your trust on God. And then I'm just watching in the world, everything that is happening around. And you're like, just put your trust on God. I'm like, Haibo, now my reasoning, my logical self says, basically, when I put trust on God, not necessarily that there's a God somewhere that cares about that I'm putting trust on them. But what it gives people, it gives them hope.
What gives them hope?
To actually think there's a deity out there they're putting their trust on. So when I think about it logically, it's like, well, maybe I do not necessarily have to put trust on anything. I just need to create hope, to believe that there's going to be a better tomorrow,
Trust in yourself.
Okay, now he's going to say I'm individualistic.
It's trust in yourself.
But
you feel as though this is within my means. It's within my control.
I also need to put something across, that normally how I define my relationship with God is that I'm like an angry teenager at their parent. You see the angry teenager who feels like my parent doesn't love me. They didn't even buy me that school bag last semester. Now, I'm suffering. They're punishing me. That's my approach.
I understand.
And I'm trying to build that relationship. Like I'm actively trying to build a relationship with God. And now the things that happen that make me feel like the things that happen that make me feel like this is godly, not that it's God. So I've put God to be an ideal. Like you mentioned about marriage. It's this thing that we look up to. Love. It's this perfect thing that we look up to. But not that there's an actual deity that gives 2 cents about me. That's the stage that I'm at the moment.
I'm just wondering. I'm trying to get more from you, your idea of God. Before I make you understand that God doesn't owe you anything.
Owe me anything?
He does not.
Okay.
He's not indebted to you. But before sifike lapho, I really want to understand, because that is why I was saying some of the decisions that we then make, where we become apostates and we leave the church, is also based on the quality of the gospel that we received. Quality or lack thereof of the gospel that we received. What is my understanding? That is why tikhona timvo kumbe ekuqaleni the idea might have been well intentioned, but it got out of the rails. such as prosperity gospel. Yuck. Just by the way. Because it's also very self-centered. You saw, it's also very, very driven by I. What do I get from this God?
Yeah.
It's picturing this deity who is sitting in the throne of heavens, and he just has me in mind, my finances, my relationship, and all of that. The problem is it's too focused on us.
Yeah. And what would you love for, including myself, for the idea of God you'd like for people to have? Is it to serve him, just glorify him, just live for him?
First, know him.
Okay.
And there's no other way to know him aside from
the Bible.
That is why we went to Acts 17.
I think I wanted...
We are gonna lab. Because it's lempo na Claudia. Keninza lomphofu. Nayo lenqeko. No matter how anointed you think he is, he's never told a lie and whatnot. Aside from testing the spirits, it's lempo. When he's there behind the pulpit and he preaches. Okay, most times, because what is the average? What's the average time of a sermon? Maybe an hour, for instance. So in some cases, maybe what, 5 verses or something. It's lempo. Take that, but don't take it. Go and search the scriptures. Wait. Hey, the homie said something.
Yeah.
Because what's gonna happen is figure Bishop Reverend Apostle Skeel. Ne. Right? Utawfunza nangu verse 1 up until 5.
Yeah.
It is your duty.
Yeah.
And I emphasize duty to read the context when you get home. Instead of taking a picture after church and putting on Instagram and saying church was great. Read, understand, because utawukhanza ukuthi kukhona futhi la bekune error khona.
That's the thing, it becomes all subjective.
What do you mean?
Stops feeling factual, because now it has to do with how I resonate with it.
But wait, you're choosing to believe in Claudia more than the God who created Claudia. You are believing in the omniscient power of Claudia, manifestation, law of attraction, and whatnot.
I think, let me just tell you this. I think I just wanted God to make sense to me without me reading the Bible.
Are you imprisoned?
No, I'm not.
Because we are going to logo. Logo would maybe be better suitable for a person who doesn't even have access
to the Bible.
Yes. Mina ngiyacela kukunika i-challenge, ngiyaticelela. There are ways to approach this book, because for some it's intimidating or just generally boring. Mina ngiyaticelela Nkosi yami, nginenza lomphofu. Ngicela ukuthi you will decide how you want to approach this. But it's very, very important. Okay, I generally would prescribe a systematic way of reading. Yes. Book by book. However, there are other ways. There are also topical ways to study. So, since nje vele nyalo besikhuluma nga marriage, for instance. Just you can get on your phone, Google scriptures on marriage. Just focus on those. Understand what is this God who created this institution called marriage. What is his understanding? What is he saying? Yabo. Futhi ube vulnerable. Oh, that's very uncomfortable, but it's the truth. Yabo. But understand it. Yabo. Good indlela, especially for you. You have access to it. Don't want to, because you'll fall prey. Because these are the same people who fall prey. God told me. But hey, he speaks louder here. He spoke. So don't try to understand him outside of here. Angisho ukuthi it does not exist outside of here. Ngithi mina qala la. Ngiyakucela.
Tani angibuyele because I have been there.
Yes, if it's marriage, you can even study characters. Kukhona lemfundo utayibonsa. How azingidadishe nang David. Skiphani wale out. Because we also just have ideas about characters. Lo munye utawuhlangana naye actually David abafile kubhasha abafati bebamfu. Yabo. Then you discover that the homie Dala had one woman. That was Bathsheba. That was but uNkulunkulu wami restore. Ngiyabekisa ukuthi you can even study characters, but I urge you, and I will also ask you, what do you have to lose? If you do, if you feel like kukhona lemfo letang, what do you have to lose?
You know, the idea of the idea of just leaning on anything external is frightening. Yeah, and it's more so frightening because I respect the book the Bible as a book of wisdom, but it is more so frightening because when I look at the world and Africa, South Sudan, Central Africa, and when you look at the quality of life, and then you think about the concept of God being fair, being love, and all of that. You understand?
Yeah.
Yes. So again, I go back to being this teenage child being angry at their parent to say, God, you are love. God, you are fair. God, uva buhlungu ngekufa kwemuntu munye. So how do you let it get this far?
But you do understand the concept of free will.
Yes.
Because where I'm trying to draw us to understand the suffering. Is that the right word? Yes. The suffering that you are seeing in the world is a consequence. It's consequence of man. It's consequence of sin. It's consequence of choosing. Yabo. We choose these things, and the way that life works is through ripple effect. Our actions affect the next person. God is not going to, he's not going, as a to understand how many of us are, how we are covered. Yabo. But I'm trying to say, God won't make you not do something. Yabo. That is why even the choosing of him, it's you. Yabo.
Otherwise, I take the first step.
Otherwise, vele bestau timase evangelize. Yabo. Ngenye lo mnyuphethe okapi. Yabo. Lo mnyuphethe injeez. Siyabangena baba singena lapha etown. Kutsakse. If ungafuni ukuboda, receive the Lord Jesus Christ as your savior.
Yep.
Now. Otherwise, nyalo qitha ingadi. Yabo. Umumfu must. You know what's funny? What's funny is good and lama altar call la. People heard the gospel and they were torn. Bayayiva lemvu. Because it's also the working of the Spirit. Ngikongithi mina ngiyaqela Nkosi yami ngokuthi see the best way. Noma uyifunza systematic, noma uyifunza ngema topics, noma ufunza nge-character. You can even, you know what? You can even start with the shortest books. Go to Google, say what are the shortest books in the book. But talking about Jude, it's just one chapter. Start with that. But have in mind that I want to understand God. Ngifuna gumati.
Fair enough. And I think, honestly, I think it is coming. I think Lord Minege is making his way to me, because the way I get people sending me scriptures, I prayed with somebody for the first time this year in years. So I definitely something is happening. I'm going to give it a shot.
Please.
And you viewers at home, I'm going to let you know how that is going. I don't know how. I think the mere fact that we strayed from marriage to God like this, it's a sign. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to receive that. And Skeel, you're definitely a guest worth having over again in the future, because we digressed, but there's a whole lot more to delve into with marriage, with love, with spirituality. But because of time, we have to cap it now. But before we cap it, I would just like to give you this opportunity to share anything with the audience. It would be regarding side projects that you have, would be regarding wisdoms that you want to impart, anything. This is your floor.
How long do I have? We're done, right? So how long do I have? I'm trying to structure myself, because I do want to touch on part of what we're speaking about earlier.
Yeah.
I do want to touch on important aspects, and if necessary, what did you call them? Side projects.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, married men have side projects, not side chicks or side pieces.
Ooh.
So I do want to touch on that's how long. So that in maths, I can do quick math on my mind. Okay.
How much time are you asking for?
I'm not asking for much. Meaning ngifuna kuvathi singakanani lesikhathi. Ngidawati mina ukuthi kulo 60 seconds lo nginika yena. 20 seconds ngimdedicate la. Lana ngihloma 30, summarize nga 10. 5
minutes. Not 5 seconds. 5 minutes.
All right. What is very, very key, I touched on wisdom. Kumcoka kokuthi we acquire it. And it is available. But we ought to be intentional about it. Because if we're intentional about it, it creates a habit of being intentional. So when it comes to the issue of marriage, the reason I'm saying is it becomes intentional. You become intentional with your thoughts, your words, and your actions. Love / marriage particularly, it's not you need to intentionally fuel it. It does not burn indefinitely. So you remember what I said. I suspect with that thing what I was saying earlier on, before we even started recording. How is it for you if maybe you value being told, I love you? Oh, but Claudia, I love you. If you value that, how do you feel about being told that once a year? Throughout the year, I show you, but I tell you once. You see? So from where you are, you value being told. Angathi noma kumbe ubesuhamba uyakhohlwa njengakhunjutwa angathi, but nonetheless you value it, right? Yes. Now, meaning that is what fuels. Yabo.
Yes.
Meaning the expectation should not be ukuthi it's just going to be assumed that I am loved. It's just assumed. You need to be intentional. And as creatures, we're creatures of habit, and we're creatures who thrive on growth. That is why, because nalo stoicism, you want to grow, and you want to understand. You see, that is why relationally, nalokuba present, we touched on presence, remember, nalokuba present is because we are growing together. It's a journey, you understand? So the proximity, nale presence, we are growing to know each other intentionally. Yabo. Because what happens is utawusoma uganwe, you tick a box and then life just becomes life. Uyabo, kanzini niyathanda lokho ukuthi ube kuhle kuba ngazuthi isolo sangisoma. Kuhle nje kuba uyabo ungaqini nje nangabe bongibhalela ama letter ngingakugani. Sekwente njani manje phela simelane? Sekuphele amaphepha mngoni. Yini i-ink, i-stationery kushodane nabongwane. Uyabo, kumeleke nami ngivusetele. Yabo, the consistency, because consistency is very, very key. Yabo, I've struggled with this. Yabo, but we have yep. Be consistent. Be consistent with this. Yabo, nege kube automatic. Good autopilot. Yabo, so I go neutral. Yabo na imanje siya flow anyalo. Yabo, mele vele go. And there could be turbulence.
Yep.
You see?
Yep.
Which is another thing. Don't expect perfection. Expecting perfection is also just very selfish. Are you perfect?
No.
But you are expecting it. Understand, kunama flaws, the very same way that you have the flaws. And I think that's another beautiful thing, whereby you are accepted for those very flaws.
Yes.
Ungithanda ngiselfish nakangaka.
Ngingibani nje mina.
Ungithanda noma ngingakhoni nekucommunicate kangaka, uyabo? And you strive. Kuthi hey, I strive to be a selfless person.
Yes.
Ngimqabangele. I strive to be a better person.
Kuyakusida
lapho. Yabo. But very, very, very importantly, le structure simqoka. It's very important, the structure. What are the principles in which your life is guided by? Yabo. Is it your life and your marriage? Because that's what we've been talking about. Is it just emotions and complacency? And like we said in the beginning, these are things that fluctuate. You see?
Yes.
We need to take note of that. So it's very, very, very important that structure be there. And God should be the God of our households. Like I said, by wisdom our house is built. Usho bani? Usho uNkulunkulu, umdali wamazulu nemhlaba. Lo mdali lo wakha yona lemvo le kungumshado. Thine lesifuna kuyithatha send ama terms and conditions ethu. Thanks, but yeah, I don't yabo. But let us learn, live, grow with each another. It's very, very important, yabo, because these are the principles that guide how we love, how we live, the way that we learn. Because letting a team for we will need to unlearn them. Yes, lo unlearning ngolo fike akhenike nalama expectations less now, because mina ngikatse ukuthi make simelane nguyela utawena lo mina asisi ngikhule mina ekhaya lapho khona babe ufike abhale 4 or whatever number he chooses baye babhale 4 isikhathi lesiningi angathi letinye inombolo kuna 11 abhala 4 afunze liphepha konke kude kuye yabo kansi make ngale unalenye picture yena ukhule no home where maybe sometimes dad uhlambambisa make yabo uhle hayi ngitakwendile salad wentaweni naloko yabo that sort of thing. But let us invest ourselves. Let us invest in growing ourselves, growing with each other. Ngendlela lengiyo. Aside from that, everything else is a lie. God is the truth. Side project is down. Akhona. My thing is to communicate truth. I've been fortunate enough to be gifted with various skills in communicating that truth. That is through virtue of music, poetry, and other projects. I communicate liqiniso.
How can people
Which, by
see
the
your
way,
project?
is another one of my names in Qiniso.
Oh.
Yes. So speaking of truth, it must communicate. Net bafule ngidigqokile nje ngibekisi. Kuya communicate. Akathuli lokweskip.
Yebo. Tholakala ku
Akhuluma. Ukhona Skeel ka Instagram. Ngathi uthi Skeel is me.
Yebo.
Ukhona na ka Facebook uthi Skeel.
Okay.
Lo Skeel ke angivete Nkosi yami. Naloku ngicabanga ukuthi udaba ukufakile wena lapha ngaphasi kwale thumbnail. Ukuthi ngu Skeel.
Yebo.
Singisi lesithe nje kancane.
Yebo.
Yes. But nangifu it's cringy. It's cringy. Akulanzelwe uNkulunkulu. I think if a person follows I think let them follow because they want to learn, they want to understand, but mine is ngithandaza lokhu ukuthi lokhu lengikwendako let it point to a greater than I am.
Okay.
Yeah. Cause lengcomvo ngidawufuna kungazi ukuthi cause kuyahlupha because next thing this blows up and it's viral and ngicabanga ukuthi futhi ka Instagram for sure banga 500 ngabanga sing 4 and then next thing this blows up this podcast and all of a sudden I've got 12,000 people who are following me. If I don't understand the purpose, how I'm functioning.
Absolutely.
And I might even just start adjusting my values so that I can boost that number from 12 to 20. That's where the non-negotiables happen. So I'm not willing to negotiate on certain aspects of my life. I'm living, I'm learning, and I'm unlearning. With my struggles and my victories. But khona timvo lesinganegotiating ngakho uyabo and lengwati uNkulunkulu slowly usileli esihlalweni sakhe sekukhosi akakhwesha akafani nami akayena toilet njengasakhile simelane futhi akayithathi yena leave mina nginema leave umqashi uyanginika leave unika 20 days in a year. UNkulunkulu akayithathi leave. He remains God yesterday, today and forever. Konke lokunye kuyawuphela bekunene nema podcast atawuphela konke lesikuthandako But God remains. God remains.
There's a famous saying by Lao Tzu says, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Labalalele batawuva Skeel. Thank you so much. So normally for our guests, we have 4 ending questions. So you can be really quick with these.
You trust me with 4 questions and being quick.
Please, one-word answers.
You are a very, very trusting individual.
Por favor, please.
Sure.
Yes. What is your pet peeve?
What is my
pet peeve?
Copy pet peeve. Yimfolonga vani. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, bo.
In what space?
Painful.
No, ngiyabuda angithi besikhuluma ngabo love and marriage. So maybe in what
life
space?
Could be anything.
It could be anything.
Could be people chewing with their mouth open.
Maybe kuloko sengidawungeta nje lokho ukuthi kunako lokuba pet peeve nje ukuthi utangikhulumisa ecingweni udla. I've got a thing. Like why didn't you call?
Yeah, so
maybe finish chewing and whatnot. And I think lokuthi futhi once upon a time in my profession ngangasebenza nase call center.
Oh.
Kuyangena ukuthi incingo have yabo. So that's not necessarily even my biggest pet peeve, but nje ngiloko ukuthi ubese uyayithinta. But nje I think one of my other pet peeves is being expected to just do something without understanding. I'm very keen on understanding, and unfortunately we're in a culture where if you try to understand it's like you're attacking.
Yes.
Ngifuna kwata angilwi Nkosi yami. Nithi yabo
ngadi ukuthi what am I getting myself into?
Yes,
what am I doing? Yeah.
Uthi singahambi kalana siyelena kwendekalani ngala angilwi dawo why ngalana kunjani. Yes. So yeah.
Okay, gotcha. What is your turn on?
What does that mean? Next question. What do you mean? Yeah. A person has a 10 on.
I mean,
what is a 10 off? I'm being intentionally ignorant. What is a 10 off?
Imbolekishago.
Iyacisha.
Yebo.
Lengikhanyisako. It's discussions such as these.
Okay.
Yeah, discussions such as these. Discussions centered on seeking and understanding. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lovely. And what is your weakness?
My weakness is time management.
Ooh. Don't explain. It's okay.
Okay.
What is your strength?
My strength is thinking. Yeah. My strength is thinking. I say this because that is actually how I charge.
Okay.
So, mixed breed. I'm literally both an extro and introvert. In fact, a lot of me is introvert, but for some reason I've been in settings and I've been awarded certain platforms where Google expressega lo extrovert. So most times when you're appearing, you are an extrovert. Kanti kahle kahle, you are both, but you're actually more of an introvert. If I didn't have time to think, if I didn't have time alone, I'd crumble.
Okay.
So my strength is solace, and then I'm able to then practice the other strength, because another strength of mine, which is also it gives reasoning and structure, is my family. I love my family very much. Very, very much. I love you very much. Yeah.
Mr. Skeel, we hope one day we can have Mrs. Skeel stop at a conversation from the woman's perspective.
Okay. Where's she? Lahlala mina la hlale la yena la dla. Noma umfati uhlala phasi. Uhlala mina la bese ubala. Ahlaqamele evolweni ahlathathisa kubantu.
I love it. I love
No,
it.
man, that's I'd love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's I think she's even more interesting than I am. So
Yeah.
that would be very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Having
All right.
her.
That's very affirming to hear. And just before I say goodbye to our viewers here, I just want to say that, having started this podcast, there's so many days where I'm just sitting and I'm like, what am I doing? Or is this even worth it? But having people like you here, it is very affirming.
That's encouraging.
Yeah, just
And
making the
humbling. Thank you.
time, your presence, sharing your wisdoms, because it doesn't matter, like you said about my followers logo, that reward. But the most important one is the people that are going to tune in here take some wisdoms that they can apply into their personal lives to improve their lives. So we truly appreciate that, and thank you for allowing the Lord to use you today. All right.
It's a privilege.
Yeah.
Quite frankly. I
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much once again for joining us in this episode. We hope that you learned a lot. So please do make sure to share with your friends, with family, talk about it, share the podcast. Make sure to follow Skeel is me on Instagram and see all of that passion. He's witty. He's everything in one human body. So if you want to catch up, make sure to follow him on his social media pages. Make sure to follow Real Talk with Claudia or RTW Claudia Bowen on social media, TFE Network. That is where we continue to share our work. And as you know, we do end our episodes with a quote. And today's quote is, "A successful marriage requires falling in love many times, always with the same person."
Am I allowed to edit that?
You may edit.
It's a small edit.
Okay.
I'm just replacing a word.
Okay. Yes.
Instead of falling, choosing.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Choosing to what is it? It's a successful marriage
Is requires falling in love many times.
Choosing
Okay.
to fall in love many times.
Okay.
Choose it.
All right. Okay. And just for me to sum up what I gained from today's session is that for successful relationships, and especially marriage, it requires sacrifice, it requires love, it requires respect, it requires wisdom,
Absolutely.
It requires guiding principles. And the thing I love about guiding principles is that it gives one also a strong sense of wrong and right. So whenever now you are in a situation where you don't really know how to move or act, or sometimes you're even unconscious, having those instilled guiding principles, it allows you to actually pursue wisdom, So yeah, that is it from Real Talk with Claudia, with love.